Russia is not ready for a ceasefire and is already preparing to test nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, Belarus is boasting about future tests of the Oreshnik together with the aggressor country. What's going on? We will talk about this in more detail in today's episode. Intelligence services in various countries are sounding the alarm. Russia is preparing to test the Burevestnik missile. This is likely an attempt to demonstrate its power. How far will the aggressor country go to avoid being cornered by Donald Trump, Ukraine, and its European allies? Will Russia's nuclear intimidation tactics prove effective? Let's take a look.
Russia is preparing to deploy a doomsday weapon. We're talking about the new intercontinental cruise missile Burevestnik with a nuclear warhead. It's a project the Kremlin speaks of with admiration, while the rest of the world views it with alarm.
And Burevestnik is precisely the ultimate trump card, the very one that's said to be, as they say, indestructible. And what's more, this trump card can be played or not played. That's precisely its strength, the fact that it doesn't have to be used.
At the Pankovo test site on the Novaya Zemlya archipelago, Planet Labs satellites are recording a sharp surge in activity. The footage shows cargo ships and planes arriving and an increasing number of equipment and specialists. American analysts Jeffrey Lewis and Decker Evard, independently of each other, have concluded that Russia is preparing for new nuclear tests.
We see all the activity at the test site, which includes both the arrival of a huge amount of cargo to support operations and movement at the site from which the missile is actually launched.
The timing for this show of force is no coincidence. It's right before the first personal meeting during the major war between the Russian dictator and Donald Trump.
The testing of the Burevestnik intercontinental cruise missile can also be seen as an additional factor meant to intimidate Donald Trump, as well as a kind of response to Trump's decision to deploy 2 nuclear submarines.
The Burevestnik is a weapon that the Russian dictator calls invulnerable to any missile defense system, while the Americans have nicknamed it the Flying Chernobyl. However, there are many caveats. Experts doubt whether the missile will actually be able to evade air defenses. Another unresolved question is whether the Burevestnik will emit radiation along its flight path.
The idea is that a missile powered by nuclear fuel will be launched, which has an unlimited, let's say, regional range of flight, and it will be able to circle the globe, but specifically as a cruise missile. On the one hand, this is something that many people find fantastical, but on the other hand, others say that it is entirely realistic. And even a term has appeared for this. It's called a second strike weapon. That is, when all the ballistic missiles have already been launched, everything has happened, and then it turns out that a Burevestnik is still circling in the sky, which can either be sent to a target or, and this is very important, not directed at a target at all, but simply landed somewhere on the ground, and thus this second strike is not carried out. This is, so to speak, the profound and deeper conceptual idea behind the Burevestnik missile system. This advanced and highly concerning weapon represents, in essence, a truly ultimate form of thermonuclear blackmail, posing a significant global threat.
So far, the story of the Burevestnik has been one of dozens of failures and one major tragedy. From 2017 to 2019, there were at least 13 tests and only 2 were even partially successful. In 2019, the Burevestnik crashed into the Barents Sea, and during the recovery mission, an explosion occurred, killing 7 people, including scientists from the nuclear center. A radioactive cloud covered Severodvinsk and reached as far as the Scandinavian countries.
This missile has never managed to fly more than 35 kilometers. Its longest flight lasted 2 minutes. And 2 tests ended in tragedy, but those are the known cases.
What lies behind Moscow's latest move is still unclear. Could the Russians go all in and risk their relationship with Trump just to demonstrate their strength? It's likely that they could. For Putin, this meeting in Alaska is not about negotiations for compromise, but a platform to dictate his own terms. And in this case, the Burevestnik is less a weapon and more a symbol, a kind of reminder. Moscow is willing to walk the line of nuclear blackmail for the sake of its interests.
Belarus is not standing aside either. it is preparing the famous Oreshnik. The Belarusian Minister of Defense made a shocking statement after a private report to dictator Lukashenko. Belarus and Russia will hold large-scale joint exercises West 2025 in September. During the training, the military will practice planning the use of nuclear weapons and the Oreshnik complex. How are the aggressor partners preparing, and will Oreshnik really be a threat soon? Let's find out.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Russia and Belarus plan to practice the use of nuclear weapons and the Oreshnik system during the joint Zapad 2025 exercises.
Of course, we plan to work on issues related to planning the use of nuclear weapons. This is, above all, an important element of our strategic deterrence. As for Oreshnik, the head of state has spoken about it more than once. All decisions have been made, the location has been determined, and work is underway. Well, of course, as part of our Zapad exercise, together with our Russian colleagues, we will also work on planning the use of this type of weapon.
That's an interesting statement, considering that just a month ago, both Putin and Lukashenko said that the first Oreshnik installation might only appear in Belarus at the end of the year.
The first thing I want to say in this regard is that we have produced the first serial Oreshnik system, the first serial missile. Yes. And it has been delivered to the troops. Now the series is up and running. First. Second, our specialists, both Belarusian military specialists and the Russian ones, have chosen the site for future positions. And now work is underway to prepare these positions. So, most likely, we will resolve this issue by the end of the year.
Well, we're not rushing. We're doing everything calmly. There's no need to rush ahead.
We both understand perfectly well that even if they have started serial production, as Putin said at that meeting on the bench, it only happened just now. So there aren't and won't be any large quantities of this Oreshnik, because, again, our intelligence and military experts say that it's more of a one-off product.
There are actually a lot of stories connected to Oreshnik and Belarus coming straight from Lukashenko himself. At one point, he claimed he didn't know that the components were being made in Belarus. Then Lukashenko boasted that he would personally decide when to press the button.
You probably noticed that my only condition for Putin was this. We in Belarus will determine the targets, not the Russians. But you'll help us operate it since we don't know how yet. So we'll be pressing the button together, God forbid if it ever comes to that. But we will be the ones to determine the targets. He agreed.
On the one hand, the first goal is being achieved, an internal propaganda objective. Look, we're surrounded by enemies, but we have a very powerful weapon called Oreshnik. So don't be afraid and stick with me, with Lukashenko, and everything will be fine for you. And the second propaganda objective is aimed at the external audience, which the Belarusians are now carrying out, essentially trying to scare Western countries.
The most interesting thing is that the upcoming Zapad 2025 exercises are being portrayed as very safe and even peace-loving.
There are currently more than 30 military attaché representatives in our country. 9 of them are from NATO countries. They will also have the opportunity. We are inviting all of them to observe our exercises. In doing so, we once again emphasize our peacefulness and openness, and that we truly want to reduce this military tension, which, unfortunately, we see and feel. Well, as they say, we are taking the first step.
Even Lukashenko himself directly refuted the rumors about where that alleged attack is being prepared from.
We have proven to all of them that we are not planning to attack you there, and that we will conduct the exercises in the center, deep inside Belarus.
For what purpose?
The exercises.
Here, changes in the plans for the exercises.
So, as not to give you, as I already said, any reason to further accuse us of being aggressors, of planning to attack at the very least the countries of Eastern Europe, Poland, the Baltic states, and especially Ukraine.
On the contrary, I would personally interpret this particular interview and Lukashenko's significantly shifted emphasis as very real and compelling evidence that such a substantial military operation is indeed being meticulously prepared by the Russians, and that in no conceivable way, so to speak, have they truly abandoned or completely retreated from the crucial objective of carrying it out.
As for the Oreshnik, they started off, as they say, on a high note, boasting that it was the most innovative and deadly weapon, threatening to wipe out the entire West with it. And everyone can see how it ended, with isolated public statements and zero real results.